I have to drag myself out of the house in the evening and do the fucking things that I want to do. Hey dear friends, this is going to be a kind of a chaotic video. I think the main thing that I'm talking about is like feeling really shitty about playing guitar and then not feeling so shitty anymore. Basically, yesterday I stumbled across a Bruno video. I really didn't watch too many of his videos. I had some comments from other people mentioning Bruno, and it was very often rather like rather radical, like yes, so there's no, the modern jazz guitar sucks, and the jazz guitar stopped evolving in the 60s, and the jazz education system completely sucks, and so lots of strong opinions. But so I started binge watching his videos, and I think he is like what I remember from my lesson, like not a typical jazz guitar player, teacher, but like a teacher, like an old school jazz guitar teacher. And I think much of the stuff that he says, you can take it with a grain of salt. He seems to be a really nice person, and a lot of the stuff that he's talking about is really like reflecting the reality of being a musician, starting with the jobs, right, getting any gigs, and also students and everything. And so for me it was really like kind of therapeutic to hear him talk. Also, I really like that he's just like sitting down with the camera and just like having a casual conversation. So basically I started binge watching his content and I also discovered that I have been playing a wrong chord on All the Things You Are Like for like ever.
He says, people play A minor 7 here. That's the wrong chord. Supposed to be a professional musician. You're supposed to know the right chord.
And that was also something, I don't know if you can relate to it, because with the chords, right, it's such a tricky endeavor. So basically, you're supposed to hear what's going on in a song, right?
So if you can't hear major, minor, dominant 7th, or minor 7 flat 5, you shouldn't be in music in any way. You'll never be a musician if you can't hear it that much.
Right. Then there are the real books. There's a lot of nonsense in it, also in the real book. But it's handy, right? If you don't have no time and you don't have the greatest ears, you maybe grab the real book and then you play the version in that book. But maybe you know that feeling when you're playing the chords, and you just feel that something's wrong. It can be really minuscule, but you feel there's something wrong, but you don't know what it is. And so one thing that Bruno said, like about all the things you are in, like, oh my goodness, in which bar is it? Oh, it must be around bar 17, right? It goes to G major, A minor 7, D7, G major. And he says it's supposed to be A half diminished. Try to play that chord there. It sounds so beautiful. And it was, for me, when I heard that, I didn't even have to play it for myself. But when I understood it, I really felt how right it is and how much more meaning the chord progression has. Because I always have been feeling like when I have been playing this 2-5-1 to G major, right, which also appears like 2 times, it was always like a little bit empty for me, like from an emotional standpoint. And now it feels like it makes just much more sense. And now I'm going to so many thoughts popping in my head, but I just really want to talk about what I'm thinking about. And yes, and what's sometimes lacking with, maybe not generalizing anything, but maybe sometimes with some jazz guitar players who come out of a jazz guitar education, is the meaning. Or maybe also the swing, like a deep sense of swing. Maybe it's the same thing. And I feel if I listen to him play, or also there's a recording with Frank sorry, I forgot his second name. And they're playing together, and you can really hear that he comes from another area of playing guitar. And you can really hear that he has been playing many, many hours practicing, but also many, many hours playing on stage. And stuff that happens when you're playing on stage is special. It's only happening there and nowhere else. You can play with somebody in a room and practice, that's great too. But if you're on a stage and you have to perform and the song has to have a finish at one point, or you have to keep the form, there's so much sort of a stress going on. And also, yeah, it's just very special. And I have been yearning for this feeling so much because I haven't been playing a lot, right? And 2 weeks ago, I finally found the courage to go on a jazz jam session, like in a very long time. I haven't been going because I haven't been going to this particular session since before the pandemic. And in my head, I had all those things piling up. How it's going to be when you can laugh now, right? It's going to be funny. How it's going to be when I'm going to a session. So first of all, I'm going to lose some kilos, right? I'm only a woman as well. I want to be like slim, not slim enough in my opinion. So I'm going to go to a session when I'm like slim and looking fabulous. Going to have a new haircut. I somehow have magically the money to have skincare and you name it, everything that I never can afford. I would have very cool clothes. And I would also be very well prepared, extremely the finger moving smoothly, knowing all of the standards, or at least a lot. And then I would appear on the scene like the perfect, whatever, female jazz guitar player. And it would be like, yeah. I'm not even thinking so much about that. I would get a lot of gigs about it from that appearance and playing. But just it would be so fucking cool, right? And I don't know. I someday realized that I'm full of bullshit, right? Because I tend to get in my head a lot, have a lot of thoughts about stuff, also projecting thoughts on other people, like, oh, he is so mean, or maybe she is so mean, and why did she look like this at me, and then this is supposed to mean that, and then finding explanation for stuff that doesn't mean a thing, right? And so, anyways, I didn't go. First of all, I had that high expectation how I'm supposed to be, or to look, or whatever, and I think it's just like another form of fear. I just have been afraid, right? So next thing on the agenda, I'm getting 50 and I'm having the feeling I'm having a little bit of a midlife crisis. I also have been imagining stuff to be very different at this age. So sort of, I don't know how, having a lot of money, or at least more money, being sort of maybe a jazz guitar professor somewhere, established, cool Tina Jekyll coming along with her fucking jazz guitar, not happening. And all the stuff going on with, going to be 50, all the stuff about is there anything more going to happen for me in my life? So feeling like, I know it's not true, but just like feeling I haven't accomplished what I wanted. I'm not going to accomplish anything anymore because I'm already 50, right? And also feeling like I'm a woman, and okay, my boyfriend tells me still kind of attractive, right? But for sure not the same way attractive when I have been 27. Not that I ever felt like it, right? I never felt like beautiful or attractive, and I really always try to give a shit about it. But it's also somehow important for women. For men too, but maybe different, right? So anyways, turning 50, feeling like a loser, I thought I really had a very bad time actually, and also didn't want to play so much, also didn't want to improvise, a lot of fear. And then, I don't know, I just came to the point where I realized it's still the same thing that is going on for every fucking human on earth who wants to accomplish something. I have to drag myself out of the house in the evening and do the fucking things that I want to do. And I did do that. And I went to a session, not looking perfect, not playing perfect, but just like with the goal to go out and play. And that really took such an effort. You can really, it's funny, I know, because I have been doing it all my life, right? And it's like, Tina, what the fuck are you talking about? You know how that works. Sure, I know how that works, but I still have been so afraid of doing it again. I think it will never stop. That's something that Jimmy Bruno also said in one of his videos, like he gets a call for a gig and he doesn't want to play it because he doesn't want to play with this person that is calling. But also sometimes this general feeling of like, oh no, I'm not going to play the gig. I have to like put the amplifier in my car or wherever, and it's just such a hassle. I'm not earning any money and then I'm going to play. And you know, that's also another thing with not playing so much. Going to come back to the jazz jam session is like, there are lots of very rational reasons why you shouldn't be a jazz musician or why you don't have to go on a jazz session, because the gigs that, if you get any, probably pay not very well. And I got it in my head that I won't play any gigs anymore that are not paying a certain like threshold. So I'm not paying any gigs. Great. Don't know if that's the right way to go about it. And now I'm going to even go further away from my jazz jam session story, because I just want to talk about, like, Derek had a gig. I'm just going to be very honest. It paid like 360 euros, like this week. It was a gig like where he had to like perform top 40 pop songs. He has been practicing for that. He has been meticulously checking out the sheets, the arrangements. He had a rehearsal. He has a car that broke down on the way to the gig, close to broke down again. A new car that close to broke down to the gig. And then he played the gig, which was around maybe 5 hours. Also getting the drum set to the gig, coming home from the gig, schlepping the whole drum set up to our 4th floor. So like a total of many hours, and then 360 euros. I have been playing in a gala lady band, and in a band only for women, right? Very slim, very attractive, like 15 years ago. And I had to learn also a lot of like pop songs. I had also to wear like high heels and short skirts. It's not funny. It's reality. It was one of the jobs that I could play a lot, right? Like on events for like big corporations, the nice girls in the corner playing a little bit like diamonds are the girl's best friend. But that's not the point. The point is this gig was like 2007 maybe, or the gigs were around that time, and guess what it paid me? 360 euro around. So those prices that you get as a jazz musician, it doesn't matter if there's an inflation or is there like a pandemic, right? It's just like the prices seem to stay the same. So back to the jazz jam session. I went to the session. I was so freaking nervous. The whole way on the bike, I have been cycling. I'm trying to understand what's going on in my brain. So I'm just like, how do you say it? I'm just like beobachten. Just having a look what's going on, right? And very negative thoughts like, doesn't make any sense to go there. You're going to have a terrible evening. Blah, blah, blah. Not shutting up. In the meanwhile, I know that the brain, if your body sort of signals fear, comes up with every and any excuse for you to not do what you want to do. I know that in the meanwhile, and I'm a little bit better at ignoring this voice in my head, not always, but sometimes, got to the session, wasn't so packed as it used to was, and I told myself I'm just going to have like a glass of beer and not play, just like checking the scene. And then the opener ended and people could join the session. I was like, so Tina, you go now and play. Now, go and play. And I went and I played. And I don't know what it is. It's nothing like rational, but it did me so good to stay on the stage and play a solo, even a short solo, it doesn't matter, but I did it, played 2 tunes, talked to some people, and then I went home. And sort of it shifted everything for me around. And now first of all, I'm back to practicing. I'm very happy to practice again. I didn't want to practice for a long time. I'm absolutely fucking planning to go on more sessions. I recorded an improvisation somewhere here. I didn't record an improvisation in such a long time. And I came to the conclusion that I just have to play, for fuck's sake, because it makes me happy. And it's just not something that can be rationalized. And it seems to be that God's plans, and I'm not very religious, I'm not religious at all, but if God's plan is to do what makes you happy, so it's very clear for me. It's to play guitar and also on a stage. And yes, so I don't know if this is helpful for you, but I just want to tell you that it's always the fear and the doubt and the imposter syndrome, right? It's always coming back and also disappearing and coming back. But I think there's never a stage, if you're a creative person, where you won't have no fears or doubts. I think it's also necessary. And the more you like practice, the more you're hearing, and everything you do gets so refined, right? And then it can be like one chord in all the things you are. It doesn't feel good, but sort of it's like a little bit like psychoanalysis, right? It doesn't feel good, but you don't know what it is. You can't put your finger on it. But then instead of an A-7, it's in half diminished, and and then it's like, oh, now I have it, and now I know it's not me that didn't feel good at this place in the tune, but just like was the wrong chord. And and that has everything to do with everything else, right? It's like you have to be so finely attuned to everything around, otherwise you can't make music, right? Like listening to others and following your heart and having the skills. And so it's very hard at the same time to not have self-doubts and to reflect too much. I think it's just a part of the process. But I think also it's very important to just, sometimes you have to drag yourself out of your depression, not of your depression, but like you have to take care of yourself. And I think we all know this little voice in our head that tells us what to do. And it sometimes feels like it's not one voice, right? It's so many voices. And if we can't possibly do all this stuff, right? So in my case, it's really always play, and it's also write songs. But I can tell you, I have been in points in my life, not all the time, where I sort of did all the stuff the little voice was telling me. And then it just shuts off. It just stops nagging you, because it just really wants to remind you of what you actually should do, or who you are, right? And I think we all are very good at just pushing it away from ourselves. Also ignoring it, it's bullshit, and I can't, and then all the reasons why you can't do this one thing, right? But then if you do it, it's like everything makes sense again, right? And I really, in the meanwhile, believe that every person on the planet has its purpose, sort of, or its task, and mine seems to be playing the guitar. Yes, and so I really want to encourage you to do what you want to do, and if it's so painful or you are full of fear in the beginning, I think just expect that to happen, and also that maybe thoughts will hold you back, but just like try to push through them and go out and play or whatever it is. And I think you'll be a much happier person, because since I'm starting to play again, I realized all the stuff with the age, right? It really doesn't matter so much. For the music, you hear it, okay, so doesn't necessarily sound old. And it's just like, I think it's really important to be happy yourself, and doesn't matter how old you are, and just have to forget about people who might tell you something else. Just ignore their opinion and do whatever you want to do. So that's it for today. I hope this video could help you a little bit. Let me know how you're doing and what's your guitar life or your musician life, and I see you around. Bye.